All right, let's go to the story now. As we end the week, we are now clearer as to the extent of the political fallout that led to former Umkhonto weSizwe Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu's demotion from that post a few weeks ago. Shivambu claims the real reasons behind his ousting include the machinations of those he calls political scoundrels that he says surround former President Jacob Zuma and take advantage of his kindness, age and gullibility. He also says fake intelligence reports have been used against him that purported to show that he was working with unnamed people across the continent to oust Zuma and take over the leadership of the party. Even accusations of witchcraft featured, with Shivambu saying that he was accused by some in the party of seeking supernatural powers to achieve his ambitions. But the question of whether or not he has left the MKP and whether or not he will be forming a new political party, well, those questions are as clear as mud. On the first one, Shivambu insists he will not resign from the MKP. And on the second, he says he will be putting that question to you, the people of South Africa, whether the country needs a new political party or not. So let's unpack this story further. I'm joined now by political analyst, Dr. Levi Ndou from the Tshwane University of Technology. Doc, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So in my intro there, I sort of outlined that we are clearer as to the depths of the fallout, because a few weeks ago we were given the official explanation, and that was to say it is because of his visit to Shepherd Bushiri's church that was not sanctioned by the MK party. But he has now added another layer of detail, has Floyd Shivambu. But are we any clearer as to his political future?
Good afternoon, Thulasizwe. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. Thulasizwe, I think the first thing to note is that nobody is guaranteed a position in the MKP except Jacob Zuma. The MKP has given Jacob Zuma a lot of powers that is able to appoint and release people of their responsibilities. Now, Floyd Shivambu, when he joined the MKP, he knew that he's occupying a position that has been vacated by a number of people before. What Floyd did whilst he was in the MKP, having been given the powers to run the office of the Secretary General, he was very instrumental in the writing of the Constitution that confirmed the powers given to the President by this Constitution. He was instrumental in ensuring that in the Constitution, Jacob Zuma should have those powers to appoint and release people from their positions. Of course, Floyd knew that at any given time, he will have to vacate that office. And a number of factors were there. The first factor is that he was aware that there is a very influential group within the MKP that did not want him to be the Secretary General. He was also aware that the powers that he has given to the President does not guarantee his position's permanency because the President has to release him of his responsibilities. He has spoken a lot about the political parties that he belonged to in the past. And of course, it raises a number of questions that what created comfortability in him being an active member of these political parties, and he will still talk bad about them after he has vacated them. What is it that Floyd can bring which is new that he could not be able to solve whilst he was in the other political parties?
So
of course...
Sorry, Doc. I'm fascinated by what you just said about his participation in the crafting of the constitution of the MKP. The MKP, of course, has not held an elective conference such that, you know, it gets its mandate from that traditional way of doing things, especially in the Congress movement. So in a way, would you say then that he's partly the author of what became his fate in terms of how the powers given to the president of the MKP have now served to grind him in a way out of the party?
The Secretary General of a party is very much influential in the policy direction of the party, and of course on matters that will relate to the Constitution. Interesting enough is that it is Floyd Shivambu himself who presented the constitution of the MK party to the public. And he spoke very boldly and very proud about the constitution of the MK party. So it is the very same constitution that was very much instrumental in drafting that actually led to him being removed from the party. And that justifies the position or the actions of the MK party in removing him, because constitutionally, there is nothing wrong that the MKP has done because the leader of the MKP has those powers given to him by the constitution of the party.
So let's backtrack just a little bit then, Dr. Ndo, and talk about his initial move from the EFF to the MK party. This is a politician that many people hold in high regard, right? And they're always talking about how astute he is as a politician and talented, that, you know, the talent that they say, that people say he possesses in the political space. So was it a well-calculated move, in your view, from EFF to MK party, or was that the miscalculation that has landed us here where we are asking questions about his future?
We still need to wait for Floyd or the EFF to explain exactly the reasons why Floyd left the EFF. Those are the questions that he is aware, and the EFF is aware that they still have to provide answers for. But I think we need to go back to history. Floyd Shivambu and the EFF made the life of President Zuma unbearable as the President of the Republic. They made it extremely difficult for President Zuma to run the government and also his appearances in Parliament. They kept on embarrassing him, and they made sure that he is not comfortable in that position. So when Floyd decided to run to the MKP, most of the questions that came in the minds of many people was, has Jacob Zuma indeed forgiven Floyd Shivambu? What are the discussions that could have taken place between the two that would lead to a situation where Jacob Zuma would give Floyd Shivambu this office? But fast-tracking that, the manner in which Shivambu was removed from the MKP talks exactly to how we've known Jacob Zuma, how he operates, the intelligence report, and not being able to keep friendships for a longer period of time, because it is quite difficult to tell who the permanent friend of Jacob Zuma is.
Sure. Wow, that's an interesting take. So let's talk about his next move. I asked you earlier if we were any clearer. He says he'll be canvassing the views of South Africans. He's working with a core group that will be undertaking these consultations. And the central question will be, should we or should we not launch another political party? But then again, he introduces this intrigue that former President Jacob Zuma introduced upon the founding of the MK party by saying, I will not resign from the ANC while leading the MK party. Now Floyd Shivambu is saying he's not resigning from the MKP while leading processes that may possibly land up with a new political party. Make it make sense for us, Doc.
Floyd Shivambu is busy reading the ground. And Floyd Shivambu has not formed a new political party. He is the member of the MKP. And what he's trying to do, in my view, is to say, because I've been removed as the Secretary General of the MKP, I'm an ordinary member. They promised to deploy him to Parliament, which did not happen. He is saying to the people, what do you think I should do? And I think what he's trying to do also is to say that, don't think that I've betrayed you. You should know that there are people who are talking to me. I'm also consulting with people so that where possible, and if people agree, we could form a new project. If the people disagree, we are not going to form a political party. But I think he's trying to do this in order to avoid a situation where people will end up saying that he has backstabbed them, he has betrayed them. He is doing it openly, and he's saying to all of us that, if possible, he could be forming a new political party.
But there's no chance, I suggest to you, Dr. Ndo, there's no chance that the MK party will allow that situation where he continues to put himself out as a member of the MK party. Is he daring the MK party to say the move should be yours, to say Floyd Shivambu has been expelled from this party?
It will be interesting how the MK party respond to the decision taken by Floyd Shivambu. But what we do know is that the MK party has made an exclusive decision. And that exclusive decision only accommodates Jacob Zuma, who is a member of the ANC and a member of the MKP. Floyd Shivambu has not left the MKP. Floyd Shivambu has not formed a new political party. But all what he's saying is that he still has the political home, which is the MKP, but there are negotiations that are going on. Floyd Shivambu is like a woman who is married, but who is saying, I'm being persuaded by other people, I might leave this marriage or I might remain in the marriage. But for now, I'm still committed to the marriage. That is exactly what Floyd is actually telling us.
Then let's then turn to the project that he's intending to undertake. So the question is whether or not to establish another political party. And I'd like you to talk to the various factors that come into play on that. One, the political market conditions objectively, whether there's still space for another party along the lines of what is known as the Progressive Caucus in Parliament. So those parties that are left-leaning with various, shades of ideology of what they believe in. That's one, the market conditions, but also the leadership, skill set, and personality and charisma that is needed to launch something that is viable? Or does he even need all of that? Or would it be sufficient for him at the point at which they decide that a party should be formed to just be happy and content with being a small minority party that just has a say in coalition politics? Talk to all of those factors for me, please.
You need to do a lot of political reading. Reading the ground, reading the views of the people on the ground, and also looking at other political parties. Of course, you don't need a Floyd Shivambu who is going to bring what the EFF has been saying. You don't need Floyd Shivambu who is going to bring us what has been doing to the MKP. You don't need a Floyd Shivambu who is going to be saying things that the ANC, the Congress of the People and other parties have always been saying. He should avoid the cut and paste of taking views from the EFF and the MKP and combine them together to form a political ideology or identity for his new political party. So he needs to bring a new voice to the South African constituency. The very same people who are members of the different political parties are the very same people that Floyd would love to convince them to join his party and indeed also to support that party. But the people that are supposed to surround him, that are supposed to be the core of the leadership of the new party, he also has to select people that the ordinary citizens on the ground will say, indeed, we can trust these people, we can associate with these people, and so on and so on. But more importantly, you need someone who is constantly in touch with the masses on the ground. Someone who is able to talk to the people, and indeed people end up following that person.
All right, Doc, hold on there for a second. I want to introduce one of our viewers, Witness in Clayville here in Gauteng, who wants to weigh in into this conversation. Good afternoon, Witness. Please go ahead.
Afternoon to Losizwe and Dr. Ndo. I just want to weigh in on the issue of Floyd deciding to stay in MKP while also wanting to form his own party.
Yes,
I think that also tests it's also testing the MKP, especially the constitution, because they have the president, who is Jacob Zuma, who is also identifying himself as a member of the ANC. And they cannot act against Floyd's decision in that regard, because also they will not be fair, because they agree with Jacob Zuma that he can have dual membership. And also, why can't they allow Floyd to do the same on that one also?
I get the point you're making, Witness. That's a good observation. Thank you for that. That's Witness in Clayville. Do you get that point, Dr. Ndo, that Witness is saying, this is almost like saying, are you going to be consistent? If it's okay for the president of the party to identify himself as belonging to another party, what would be so wrong with an ordinary member like myself, being Floyd Shivambu, to belong to another political party, possibly, while still belonging to the MK party?
It's going to be quite interesting how they respond to this one. But in one of the press briefings, the MKP had confirmed that there are exclusive rules that are there that only accommodates Jacob Zuma to be a member of both the ANC and the MKP. And I would expect the MKP to act harshly on Floyd Shivambu's decision to remain in the MKP whilst it's organizing for another party. But another tricky situation is that Floyd only belongs to the MKP. He does not belong to any other political party. And what he's saying is that I am being persuaded I might join another political party or I might remain in the MKP. And recently, his political home remains the MKP. What the MKP will do is something that we're still waiting for, whether they will act or not act against him.
Yeah, but I mean, I did see that one of the considerations, at least as cited by Floyd Shivambu himself, would be the question of whether or not the consultation process he's undertaking is inconsistent with the objectives of the MK party. Let me take another caller. Andile joins us from Brett's. Good afternoon, Andile. You want to weigh in on this conversation as well? Please go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Anything. So, Mr. Floyd.
Yes, Kobegaba.
Now, Floyd, if they get on establish a new political party, I remain a pioneer with MK. As no former president, I remain with ANC.
Why ubuzosho njalo ukuthi angaphumi?
Makangaphumi because xa lijonga indlela asebenza ngayo with ground forces, he is very, very powerful. And makasebenzisa style esisetshenziswe president kwi-ANC.
Asebenzise with what objective in mind? Ukuzenza njani eventually to become the leader of MK party?
No, first to remain as a member.
I see.
Yes, no president, no former president, remain a member of the ANC.
Okay. All right, gotcha. Andile, thank you for your call this afternoon. Dr. Ndo, just a response to Andile as we wrap up.
You need this kind of views from ordinary people like Andile. But I think it's important to look at the history of Floyd Shivambu. He has been in the leadership positions in the student movement, in the ANC Youth League, in the EFF and in the MKP. He has not been an ordinary member of a political party for quite some time.
Yeah.
And when you remove him from being the Secretary General, it's a demotion. You make him not to be useful in the political parties and indeed at the higher structures of those political parties. Because he's used to that, it is not easy for him to be comfortable as an ordinary member of any political party. And that is why when you talk about forming a new political party, he does not expect himself to be an ordinary member. He expects himself to be leading that political party.
Yeah.
That is the life that he has lived for quite some time.
I've got to thank you this afternoon, Dr. Levi Ndo. I've really enjoyed this conversation as well as hearing from our viewers this afternoon. You're watching the Weekend Review here on SABC News. More for you in just a moment, including a conversation about political party funding and some of the recent findings of a survey that was done by the IEC and HSRC.